Hey everyone, it's Rob Dog. We're here for some doggone music, and today, before I get into what album we're gonna listen to, because if you've been watching the last few videos, I've kind of been telegraphing it, and if you're watching with the title, you know what it is. But before I get into it, now, in a couple weeks, I still would say expect me not to be doing any upload, but it's for a different reason. Because, let's just say the person that I plan to go see in a couple weeks, that's not happening anymore. If you want to know why, you can ask in the comments below. I can message you personally, but all I'll say is, let's just say that song that I'm highlighting right here kind of hits different after what went down there. That's what I'll leave it at for now. But oh wow, I mistyped. K1 by Kmoe. Yep, that's right. We are listening to Kmoe's debut with DeadAir Records. Obviously, Kmoe's someone who gotten some notoriety as, both on their solo stuff and as a friend of both Juno and, of course, Jane Remover. But Kale over here has been going on a tear of his own lately. I mean, I'll say 1,000 Yard Stare. Oh, I'm so ready to get to that one. I've heard the 3 singles a few times. I've heard Do I Keep You Up in 1,000 Yard Stare several times. They're really good. But, I'll let y'all experience that as it goes. But with that being said, let's just get into this. Kmoe, K1. I think this might be their first album, period. I can go check after, but definitely their debut project with DeadAir. So let's get into it. Dumpster Fire. All right, so dumpster fire. That definitely is not the word I would use to describe that first track, because it was really well done. It was really well done, and I really enjoyed myself there. I mean, obviously, some themes are like, dealing with trust issues with the people around you, and things of that nature. But in terms of like whether it's obviously like I actually think out of that trio of Jane Remover, Juno, and Kmoe, which I like all of their vocals a lot, but I think Kmoe's might be my favorite of the three. And as I'm hinting at, that's saying something. Really like the direction of the instrumental, kind of keys, synth bass, but, with, those kind of fuzzy guitars and, kind of drumming on the heavier side alongside it. I mean, I figured from some of these singles, especially, well, you're about to hear it, that there would be at least some bit of a shoegazy direction for the album, and again, definitely not disappointed so far. So, with all that being said, Penthouse, like 3 or 4 steps outside the VIP. But all right, up next, all right, Peak Incoming.
Heard the news, didn't pass. Nothing new, stays the same. I'll go insane, change my name, take a chunk out of my brain. Tell me something I don't know. Will my feelings ever show on the surface or below? I don't know. Sweating through all my shirts, hit the ground, didn't hurt. Losing feeling in my shins, blood is bubbling in my skin. Do you wanna see me cry? Will you be there when I die? On the surface or below? I don't know, I don't know.
Okay, so obviously that one was more pure shoegazy, a little bit The instrumental was a little less involved than on the last one, but God, I love this track because I mean, you all heard that Kmoe's vocals on here just took it to another level. Like, it's all like it's such a it's such a sad, melancholy song. Yet, but Kmoe's voice really brings everything together here. Like everything's already good, and then like Kale's voice just brings it to another level, man. Whew. And that's why, chances are it's going to be my favorite one here, but I'm still holding out that maybe Kmoe topped himself at some point with one of these other tracks. I'm holding out, but for now, this one, it's in the VIP, and it's really like one or two steps away from the mansion. Yeah, that high. But man, I freaking love that track. I love that track, man. But we got to get through the rest of the album, so on to the next.
Stomach's turning, I don't need it. When I'm in cold, I'm losing feeling. And I can't tell which way is up and what's down. And I've got no more hope. What's done is done. Why do I feel like I don't need anyone's help? Why can't I be anything or anyone else? The yellow and deep, is it worth breathing out? And I might be one step away from ruining my life. You came in, new skin, a silicone mask, laid in fake beds, plastically wrapped, chemically rinsed, seeping in fast, weakening plaster, everything cracks. Why do I feel like I don't need anyone's help? Why can't I be anything or anyone else? The yellow and deep, is it worth breathing out? And I might be one step away from ruining my life.
So I'll say, even though I didn't like this one, I did like this one. Although just not as much as the first two. It is, well done and nice all around. Just lacks a little bit of that oomph to get it over the top. But with that said, it still sneaks its way into the penthouse by a step or two. Just again, still a good track, just for me not as strong as the first two. But obviously the first two were a pretty high bar to clear anyway. So anyway, continue. Okay, so going over that song titled "Idiot." So let's see how that went. It was a little slow at the start. Not gonna lie. Thought it might fall into the same kind of stuff that held Watershed back a little bit. And I mean, for a majority of the song, it did. But then that little those sound effects for the outro started kicking in. I'm like, okay, hold on, this is going somewhere. Now it went somewhere a little goofy, but I liked it. This feels like a song where this is one, because in some of these album reviews, there will be like a song or two where after I listen to it, it'll grow on me off camera. I feel like this song might be one that does that. For now, it's in the penthouse by about 4 or 5 steps. But I could definitely see this one growing on me. I could see this one growing on me in the future even further. So, with that said, let's go on. Okay, so this was a song that another slow starter, but it was about halfway through when it was starting to pick up where I'm like, okay, I see this going somewhere, and depending on where it goes, like that was gonna make or break my enjoyment of the song. And boy did it make it. Because once that kind of drop outro part started kicking in, that's when I'm like, oh hell yeah, I like this one. So, kind of, it felt like, sort of something Kmoe from a few years ago would do, but like, just sort of done up a little more, touched up a little more, done a little better, and I'm all for it. Put that one in the penthouse too, and in fact, put it right in line behind Dumpster Fire. Right in there. Okay, now, getting back to the singles. So, I have heard this one before. I have not heard this one yet, but it has a music video made for it, so I'm going to count it as a single.
I think I finally know the point of this. Went out in a sheer dress. If you can't afford me, then I can't afford this warm breath. Feel it on my neck when I forfeit. Throw my head in the ring like a circus. Justine Clanket, coquette necklace sitting on your chest. Essence, put it on the line for a fit pick. With the next shift, 3 months full-time job now. No car, no time, acting like a crash out. Swore I'd be far from this town now. Got one more chance left to get out. Time flies fast when you're passed out. How much money can I make off a laptop? One hit song from a TikTok. 6, 7, 8 months since the last drop. I'm gone when you need me most. Is it the same when I'm here? You're alone. Do I keep you up at night, waiting by the phone? Do I keep you up at night, just when I get home?
Again, that one was just, non-stop action from beginning to end. That one didn't even have the slow start syndrome that I was saying some of the other songs had. That one kind of, the drum pattern kind of came in at the beginning, and everything filled in around it pretty quickly, and it did not let up on the energy for the whole runtime. Like, even in the little outro where it was kind of calming down, it was still kind of keeping everything up still, and I really enjoyed that. I really did. Not quite 1,000-yard stare, but that one gets in the VIP 2 by about 2 or 3 steps. 2 or 3 steps. But okay, here's Bloodbath. Kmoe made a music video for this one, but I had not heard it yet. So I'm interested to see what this one's going to sound like. I'll probably check out that music video off camera. But for now, let's hear the music first.
Let it fall off my face, but
Hold on, that transition though. Oh my lord. Okay, let's restart it.
let it fall off my face. Bite with your furthest molar. I'm feeling so much older. I'll change my mind tomorrow. Stop. I'll come alive one more time. I'll come alive one more time. I'll come alive one more time. Let's go.
Okay, so Bloodbath Dance. Maybe the catchiest song here so far, probably like the most poppy, but like still keeps up the like kind of melancholy atmosphere that this whole album has had so far. So definitely still fits in really well. I'd even venture to say, yeah, you know what? I'm going to say it. So far, this is my second favorite one on the album. I mean, I really like the direction that Bloodbath went in. You know, it felt different while not feeling jarring. And that can be a really difficult balancing act for an album to keep up with. But my God, Kale, you did it. You did it. You and everyone working with you, y'all did it. So that being said, it's in the VIP. Like solidly in there, but like definitely further than 1,000 Yard Stare from Mansion territory. So, all right. And now, after a bunch of songs where none of them were longer than 3 minutes and 18 seconds, now we get a couple back-to-back songs of 4 minutes and 3 minutes. Let's get this. Let's get this bread.
One step forward, 2 steps back. How am I gonna stay on track? Has it always been like that? Honestly, I could care less what you think about me, but I don't wanna end up laying trapped inside my bed. How am I gonna stay on? How am I gonna stay on track? How am I gonna stay on? How am I gonna stay on track? Read my future in these clouds. Is someone gonna shut me
Okay, Carpet. Now that one took a little minute to build up, but like the whole time it did feel like okay. Like even though it's a little slower right now, like especially at the beginning, it did always feel like okay, putting the pieces together towards something. But again, it was definitely relying on, it definitely needed a good payoff to put it over the top. Now, and there were a couple points where there were smaller payoffs and then it would build back up until finally that payoff at the end. Now, for me, payoff was worth it. I do think it was. And I do put it in the penthouse. I can see how some people would hear that and maybe, not think as highly of the payoff, maybe think, okay, like you made me listen through 3.5 minutes of build up and, sort of, these sort of fake peaks for this. Yeah, I can see that, but for me, I liked it enough that, yeah, it's still going in the penthouse, just like right behind Headfirst and Dumpster Fire. Right behind those two. So with that said, okay, up next is Aired Out, which has grown on me. Probably still my least favorite of the singles, but it's still good. I'll let y'all listen.
I know I have a tough time just trying to remember how we met, but I know you better than I know myself. I know you better than I know myself. I know you better than that. Once had a hard time trying just to get into your head. Now I know you better than I know myself. I know you better than I know myself. I know you better than that. Face up to the glass just to know how it felt. Never you look more before you ask for my help. I can't take this noise, I'm a paranoid. I might finally pull me back up while I end this bitch out. Back up while I end this bitch.
And Man, I forgot how low-key hard the drop goes on that one. Because it really do go. It really do. But, I mean, let's see. So, obviously those, I guess that's supposed to be like some sort of race car sound that, you know, in the intro and kind of present throughout. But, you know, that was the part that I kind of had to get used to and kind of had to grow on me. But once it did, man, yeah, I really liked the rest of it. You know, like, really enjoyed it a lot. And, you know, even though, like Kmoe's vocals do the least on that out of the singles, you know, it still does pretty damn good. You know, the instrumental around it is interesting. Definitely the most, like, electronic of the four, what I call the singles. And like I said, that drop, man, that drop was really good. That drop was something. But with that said, I'm going to put that one like a couple steps outside VIP. In the Penthouse, a couple steps outside VIP. Alright. But yeah, this album's been doing really good so far. I'm very much very happy about that. So let's see how it closes it out. Back to the shorter songs. Okay, well, let's see. So, You Ruined It. Probably the most abrasive song on here so far, you know. I mean, all throughout the beat, that beat was not trying to, like, be a mass appeal kind of beat at all, and I'm here for it. I am all here for it. Probably had the least Kmoe vocals here so far, but, you know, still, like, you know, again, just the mood of the album has really not shifted. Like, even with Bloodbath, that was a little bit more upbeat. Like, there was it definitely felt like there was something, you know, somber and melancholy in the background going on. You know, like, sure, it sounds happy, but is it really? And yeah, You know, did it get like a little busy for even my liking at points there? Sure, but for the most part, I think it packed quite a punch for 2 minutes 15 seconds, which is why it is going in the penthouse, and it's actually going to go right ahead of Dumpster Fire and Head First. But all right, 2 tracks to go, so let's get into it.
It's feeling much worse now than when I started. If this is what we live for, I don't want it anymore. Now I'm lost in my own house. How did you get out? You said don't be like mouse, but how did it fit in his mouth? I'll give it one more day, straight to my brain. Inhumane. If God made me this way, then I don't think He'd trust me. I don't think He thinks like me at all. I don't think He's seen what I see. Spinning on the wall. If I could, I'd take it. And if I could, I'd take it. And if I could, I'd take it. And if I could, if God made me this way, then I don't think He'd trust me. I don't think He thinks like me at all. I don't think He's seen what I see. Spinning on the wall. If I could, I'd take it. And if I could, I'd take it. And if I could, I'd take it.
Okay, a little bit of a slower track there, but I definitely, obviously, I liked it and I liked it. If you get my drift, but it definitely did just enough to keep my attention there, and despite there not being a ton of stuff to chew on there, what there was pretty good. Obviously, not my number one of the Kmoe vocal performances on here. I think that still goes to 1,000 Yard Stare, but definitely just solid all the way around. Solid ass tracks. So yeah, it's in the penthouse by about 4 or 5 steps. All right, so one final track, The Way I Should. Let's see if this is the way you should end this album, Kale.
I'm a dead man walking along the shoulder of the road, and I cut it close this time. Tripped over a dirt pile, decided to stay. feel it stop from time to time. And I thought that I was dreaming, and I woke up in a landfill, decided to stay.
Okay, I do feel like I like that one. I think part of it right now is I think the tired from work is definitely like settling in at this point, but fortunately the 30-minute run time of this album at least allowed me to get it through in one go. But so let's see, The Way I Should. Definitely one of the slower tracks here. I'll check it out again off camera probably to get a better feel of the emotion and everything, because I feel like there was something there that's more than what I got out of it. I mean, obviously, Kale's voice was really good there. Probably one of his better performances overall, actually, I'd say. Just, I don't know, that I guess like I was trying too hard to really focus in on everything, and that made me miss some things. I mean, the instrumental was, it was nice, but overall, for now, I'm tentatively saying it's like just outside the penthouse, just outside, but still nothing against it, and I feel like that one could grow on me as well. So with that said, what do I think of this as a full album experience? I think Kmoe did pretty good for his first album here. At least definitely his first one with DeadAir. As soon as I turn off the camera, I'm going to check to see if he has any others that I'm unaware of. But, I mean, it definitely definitely kept up that, melancholy feel all throughout, kind of missed chances and, other things of a similar nature to that. And really feel like everything all around was just really solid project, really solid production, really solid, instrumentation. Obviously, Kmoe's vocals are always a nice touch. And yeah, overall, good debut record. It is going in the penthouse, like a couple steps closer to the VIP than to the door. So that's my verdict for now, and I'll probably stick to it for a while. But with that being said, for those of you still here, of course, thank you for watching. Don't forget to leave a like, leave a subscribe, ring that bell, leave a comment, and as always, thank you for coming to my house of music. Stay a while.